Imagine receiving this in the mail, an exclusive, highly restrictive invitation to celebrate the 74th birthday of a wealthy patriarch named Reginald Remy. The dinner is set to take place at Remy Manor, an estate sitting on a private, rocky slice of land off the coast of Scotland known as Joy Island. This timetable outlines the absolute logistical rule of the island. There is only one boat from the mainland, and it departs exactly once a day, at 12 p.m. sharp. That journey takes 2 hours across open water, which means once a guest steps foot on Joy Island, they are entirely cut off until the following afternoon. There are no early exits and absolutely no unexpected visitors. This geographic bottleneck creates a flawless, inescapable perimeter. It sets up the ultimate locked room scenario for the events that follow. When the time comes to eat, the guests gather in the dining room. The table is perfectly set, the wine is poured, but the host is nowhere to be found. A search of the manor leads to a grim discovery. Reginald Remy has been murdered inside his own home. Because the island's single ferry schedule ensures no one else could have arrived or departed, the authorities know the killer has to be sitting among the remaining guests. To expose the culprit hidden inside this family, we have to look past the chaos of the crime scene and rely entirely on the rigid, chronological constraints of the island itself. Reginald Remy built an empire of hotels and casinos, amassing a massive fortune that he used to manipulate and control everyone around him. That control bred deep resentment. His niece, Celia, was entirely cut off from the family wealth, and his butler, Humphrey, was left harboring a silent rage after a cruel personal denial. The inner circle is just as fractured. Reginald's son, Ralph, and his wife, Lizzie, are clashing over business strategy, tension that is heavily compounded by the fact that Lizzie is secretly having an affair with Ralph's own brother. That brother is Bobby Remy, the estranged older son. He struggles with a severe gambling addiction and runs with a violent urban street king, a man who has spent a decade slipping through the net of the justice system. Every single person in this manor holds a lethal grudge. Identifying the true culprit requires looking past the drama and focusing strictly on the physical timeline. This timeline maps the evening. At 5:15 p.m., the victim was alone in his study. Meanwhile, the suspect scattered without alibis. Bobby claims he was walking, but was secretly with Lizzie. She refuses to corroborate him, protecting her wealthy lifestyle. Then there's the discovery in the fireplace, the remnants of a document that would have stripped Bobby of his entire inheritance, found torn to shreds in the soot. Bobby has a clear financial motive, a shredded will he needed to disappear, and a secret affair preventing him from proving his innocence. The timeline has systematically cornered him. But before we lock Bobby in a cell, we need to take a closer look at Inspector Howard Way, a man whose career has been defined by his failed pursuit of Bobby's gang, and who just happened to be the one to find the shredded will. Remember the timeline we established. Reginald was killed inside his study sometime after 5:15 p.m. Look at the transport schedule again. If the only boat to Joy Island leaves the mainland at noon, how did a police inspector arrive to investigate a murder that hadn't even happened yet? The inspector didn't travel to the island after the crime. He was already on the island, waiting for it. The inspector's presence was part of a larger plan. The mastermind behind the entire evening was the victim himself, Reginald Remy. Reginald recently learned he was dying of terminal cancer, leaving him with only a few weeks to live. He spent years watching Bobby slip through the net after murdering both Reginald's wife and the inspector's former partner. Knowing he was out of time, Reginald decided that if he couldn't see Bobby face justice for the past, he would create a new crime to ensure he never walked free again. Reginald conspired with his other son and the inspector, weaponizing Bobby's own predictable behaviors. They knew his secret affair with Lizzie would leave him without an alibi, creating the perfect opportunity to stage Reginald's death and leave Bobby as the only viable suspect. The strict rules of the island weren't designed by a killer to trap their victims. They were meticulously engineered by the victim himself to trap a guilty man in a web of his own making.